Good morning. It's actually early afternoon on a Sunday. Pretty nice day. A few birds in the background. I have a few comments about the Republican tax plan, which I think is actually moving in the right direction. The idea of lowering the corporate tax rate is a good idea, and that I think it would make U.S. companies more competitive. What they do with that money's a different question. But the whole idea of a corporate tax is kind of insane anyway. You tax money when it leaves the corporation as a profit, and then you tax it again when it gets to the individual or to the worker. Lowering the corporate tax rate will mean that money that moves to individuals will in general be taxed at a higher rate, which is good and brings in more money to the public coffers. But there's still some issues that aren't being addressed. The Republicans assume that increasing the amount of profits in companies will increase investments, increase hiring, increase worker pay. That might be true if a system was in balance. But with wealth inequality that we have in this country, there's a fundamental problem in that there are not enough customers with cash in their pockets to buy the goods and services that are being produced. Why do corporations still have a lot of money sitting in their coffers and big piles of cash overseas? I believe Apple has a $500 billion or something cash stuck around. If they have another $1 trillion because of higher profits, because of a lower tax rate, are they suddenly going to change their ways? They invest in new plants, new facilities, and hire new workers when they have more customers wanting to buy their phones. And not only customers wanting to buy their phone, customers with money in their pocket to spend $1,000 on a phone. Where do those customers come from for the most part? They work in factories all across America. But all those factories are pretty much all sitting on cash, and they're sitting plants that are not running at full capacity. Why? Because they don't have customers. Why don't they have customers? Because they don't pay the workers enough, and they don't hire them. It's not really a catch-22 like it sounds. Each company is doing what's best for them. They're maximizing their profits. One of those ways to do that is reduce the number of workers, which also reduces the number of customers buying goods and products from everybody else. So what's good for each individual customer is bad for the collective. Automation and AI are going to make this problem worse. As soon as the Republicans realize that this wealth inequality is bad for profits, perhaps they'll address it. Somehow money has got to be moved to customers, which means moving money to workers. Once the customers are there, business can expand. It's a system out of balance. You can do this in a lot of different ways. Basic income, Republicans, I'm sure, are not ready for that. Incentivized basic income, nope, they're not ready for that. Raising minimum wage, it might be talked into a little bit of that. Um, but that kind of is a double-edged sword. You temporarily increase the amount of money in customers and workers' pockets, but you may also push them toward automation a little sooner. You could even write a tax code where you taxed companies that had low revenues per workers at a lower rate than you tax companies that had high revenues per worker. For instance, a manufacturing plant typically makes, if they're lucky, they make $200,000 per worker revenues, maybe $100,000 per revenue. Tax them at a low rate. Somebody like a Google or an Apple might make millions of dollars per worker, or certainly hundreds of thousands of dollars per worker. Tax them at a higher rate. This has the effect of favoring manufacturing workers and discouraging automation. It's a little counterproductive because it makes you less competitive on the world stage, but that's an optimization process that companies will make given those given that tax structure. But somewhere along the line, Republicans and Democrats, all of us have to recognize that not having customers with money in their pockets is going to hold back the American economy. It's the bottleneck right now. And of course, customers, another name for them, workers. And it's blue collar, white collar, and it's going to move up the food chain as AI becomes more successful. So I wish the Republicans well on this lowering the corporate tax rate. I hope all the lobbyists and special interest groups don't make their tax plan more complicated and move us back toward the mess we already have, or in the worst case, keep anything from happening and we stay at status quo, which I think right now is what the Democrats are rooting for. They don't want to see Trump have any success. I'm not too fond of the guy either, but I actually back his idea on the lowering corporate tax rates. Anyway, have a good day. This is the Ancient Texan with a few thoughts on taxes.